Okay everyone, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed at the moment. Stressed isn't even the word for it. So some of you might know, but I've had a lot of new people join, and if you're new, I want to welcome you and thank you so much for being here. But I have a day job and it can be really difficult fitting YouTube in with a day job, but I normally make all of my videos on a weekend and then send them to my editor, and then he uploads and schedules them. So in the week, I don't really have to do anything, which I tell you what, without him, I couldn't do this at all. But I did a video on Sunday for Wednesday, which was yesterday, and I missed yesterday because when I watched it back, I just wasn't really happy about it. So what that video was about is about why I was scared to speak out about the Dior alleged controversy that's going on right now. And I think the word alleged is something we all need to really hold in our minds right now, because essentially what's happened, and I'm going to link to my video below where I go into a lot of detail about this, so if you've missed that, go and watch that first before watching this. But in a nutshell, it looks like Dior allegedly outsourced the making of certain bags to a particular unit in Italy, in I think it was Tuscany from memory, and it looks like Dior weren't doing their audits, their checks, and allegedly this particular working environment was toxic. So a video's come out. I actually got this from Diet Prada. I don't know where they got it from actually. But these are the alleged working conditions where people apparently alleged were working 24 hours a day. They were like literally sleeping in the factory. Some of the protective mechanisms have been removed off machinery so that allegedly bags could be made more quickly, but obviously that was dangerous for the people working there. And all of this has come out in the press. But it's in court at the moment, and it's gonna take about a year to get to the bottom of it. And yes, that's kind of what's gone on. But when I did that video, I had so many questions from you all to do with sales associates. How will this affect my relationship with sales associates? Because obviously I did that video. How do I think it's going to affect? What do I think the future is for Dior and for luxury? Exactly why was I nervous? And a lot of you saying, were you scared about doing this video? And so I want to address that. So let's start with why was I nervous about doing this video? I was talking to one of you, William, on Patreon, and we were DMing, and William actually said to me, he was like, LVMH are not going to like or appreciate that this information is out there, that it's been leaked. And I said to William, oh my God, trust me, I thought like 3 times before posting this video, because LVMH are a massive company. And I'd seen a video that gave me a little bit of a wobble. See if I can find the video and I'll link it below. But there's a guy on YouTube who takes, for the most part, he takes Louis Vuitton bags that he finds in thrift shops that are damaged and irreparable. He's a leather maker, and he cuts them up and he makes wallets out of them. But he doesn't pretend that they're Louis Vuitton. He actually puts his own logo on them, and they're quite pretty wallets actually. And he did a video on it. He actually had someone from LVMH turn up in a car at his door in the States, and they tried to get him on this. And then they twisted it, and they were like allegedly saying, oh, well, the reason why we want to stop you doing this is because you're using fake Louis Vuitton canvas, and he was able to prove it with serial numbers, etc. So they take this stuff seriously. And but the way I see it is, I'm not making anything up about the alleged stuff that's going on right now. I'm just reading the news. And I was talking to David about it because honestly, everyone, I put that video up and within 10 minutes, I nearly took it down. Because at the time, I was the only person talking about this. I had lots of you tagging me on Instagram in articles about this, like lots of you, and lots of you saying, Sophie, it's like your responsibility to talk about this. And when I dug deeper and kind of looked into what people were saying, and what the evidence, like alleged evidence was, that was when I thought, yeah, I really should be talking about this. I feel like it would be wrong to ignore that it was going on, as someone that does luxury. So that's another reason why I did it, but I definitely thought about taking it down. Just for, you know, you can imagine the reasons why. And David said to me, he was like, why would you take it down? You're just reading out the news. You're not doing anything bad. It's not like you've come on the internet and you're making really big statements that aren't true or are not proven. He was like, you're just coming on and you're reading out news articles that are also saying all of this is alleged, you know, if you see what I mean. But I didn't take it down. And your feedback on that video was just mind-blowing. Since doing that video, I've seen one other person that's done it as well. I don't know whether we're going to see more people talking about it or whether people in the luxury community will, like, a bit like with me, not want to go there. I did go there, but, you know, you have to worry about going there. The other thing that kind of, that came up in the comments under that video is how do I think that video will affect my relationship with salespeople in Dior? Because as you know, I'm a really massive Dior fan. I own a lot of Dior pieces. I don't know really what I'm going to do, because although this is all alleged, I would feel like a hypocrite if I went out now wearing Dior with a Dior bag. I would feel like a hypocrite having done that video. But the salespeople that I know in these stores, I really love them. Like, I know that sounds like an overstatement, but to me, maybe not to them, but to me, they're almost like friends. When I really get to know someone, they become more than somebody I just contact when I want something. They become someone that Christmas, I'll text them and be like, happy Christmas, happy Easter. Like, if I know their birthdays, happy birthday. All of these kind of things, they're more than just somebody that I'm like, hi, can you get me this? And I speak to them a couple of times a year. They're people that I might only speak to a couple of times a year, but when I do, it's to wish them well as, you know, can you get me something? So I would really hope that it hasn't affected my relationship with salespeople, because I really respect those people, and I didn't do that video in any way to upset anyone. I was just reporting on the news, and I was getting a lot of heat to talk about it. And when I looked into it, I felt that I should talk about it as somebody who does luxury. I felt that it was ethically, I felt like I needed to talk about it. So that's that. And as I say, I really hope it hasn't ruined any relationships. If people don't want to like me anymore because of that video, I can't do anything about that. As I say, in that video, it wasn't maliciously me coming on here making stuff up. It was me reading out stuff that's currently in the media right now. And whether I read it out or someone else read it out online, it was always going to come back to affect me, because as all of you know, I'm a really big Dior fan. I'm a fan of so many brands. I love Fendi as well, and Gucci. I love those two brands as well. And Prada, like a bit of Prada. And I do love Chanel, apart from that they're super expensive. But yeah, that's kind of that when it comes to relationships. And, you know, as I think I said, that was another reason why I did think about taking it down, because I thought, oh, I really don't want to upset anyone, but it is what it is, you know. And now I'm glad I left it up, because I think it's good to just be aware of what's going on, you know, with these luxury brands. Okay, the next question is, will I be burning my stuff? So I had a couple of comments kind of saying, are you going to destroy the Dior things that you own? Are you going to like burn them? And this kind of thing. And I don't believe that destroying things is going to make anything better. If anything, if those things that I own were in fact made by someone in poor conditions, I think that's disrespectful to their work to just go and destroy something. Also, you know, I'm someone that goes to work and I save and I go and buy things, and financially, again, I I've been collecting the Lady Dior since 2015. I've got a few of them now. I'm so humbled and grateful to have them because they're beautiful bags. But for me, financially, to go and trash them all, I just wouldn't do it. I feel it's disrespectful to the people that have made that item, as well as disrespectful to the product, and I wouldn't do it. But will I be reaching for any of that stuff anytime soon? No. But that's just because of my ethics about this. And do you know what I really hope? I really hope that all of this alleged stuff gets disproven. I don't know if it will. I really don't know if it will. But I hope that it does. Not so that I can go and wear Dior again, but so that I don't have to look at Dior and think of alleged exploitation. That's not how I want to look at the brand. I always looked at the brand's images on Instagram where they show really clean working conditions, and there's this whole thing around equality and making sure the people that produce things produce them in great conditions. And having seen that video, if that alleged video, which is alleged, happens to be correct, I think it just blows out of the water that content that we see on Instagram in particular. And that's why I'm hoping it's not true. I'm really hoping it's not true. What do I think that this will mean for Dior and for the luxury industry? I have said before that, in my opinion, I really feel like the luxury industry is imploding somewhat. I think that a lot of these luxury brands are ruining themselves with price increases. I think a lot of these brands are, this is like a little bit of a side topic, but I feel like a lot of these brands, by weeding out the middle classes, which I think is what they're doing, I don't know, but it's the only thing I can think of as to why they've put their prices up so much. I feel like there's a demographic that they don't want carrying their stuff, and maybe one way of getting rid of that demographic is to price them out. But as I've said before, I don't think we should take the middle classes for granted, because although compared to the rich, the middle classes might buy one bag a year, if you imagine the grand scale of middle class people who would have done that, that makes up a big proportion of sales. Don't tell me it doesn't. And the rich are rich for a reason. A lot of them don't spend their money. And when they do, they're very cautious with it. And you know, how many very, very wealthy people are like going into Chanel now and spending nearly £10,000 on the large size classic flap? Are they, who's to say they're not looking pre-loved? You know, as I say, the rich are rich for a reason. I know of some really, really wealthy people, and they do dress designer. I think there's an assumption that wealthy people don't wear logos. Some of them do, but they buy things that they see as having an intrinsic value, as being investment, such as fine jewellery, even if it's from a designer brand. They will buy things from a designer jewellery place because it's gold, or because it's diamonds, or because the metal or the stones have a value. But they're not necessarily going to go out and buy like a load of classic flaps each year. I just, from the people I know that they wear logos, but they don't do that. And I know I can't speak for everyone. I know that, but that's just kind of like a little bit of a case study from my point of view. But do I think that Dior have like ruined themselves in any way? Maybe in the short term they might have done. But believe it or not, this story, this alleged story, will shock and upset some people more than it will others. I know that might sound crazy if you're watching this and you're angry and upset and disappointed and shocked. For every one of you, there'll be someone who's like, yeah, it's not great, but all the designer brands are probably doing it. Is it going to go and stop me buying a bag? No, there will be people like that. And so I don't think in the long term, by any means, I don't think that Dior will have destroyed themselves from this. People will forget it. You know, believe it or not, there will be people that will move on from this and they'll forget it. And LVMH will sweep it under the rug, and 10 years from now, it'll be water under the bridge, unless more stuff gets leaked, or, you know, hopefully they change their ways. You know, if this alleged story is correct, I would really hope that Dior say, oh God, you know, we didn't do our checks on that place, we should have done, and that's not good for business. And because this is the other thing, guys, it was leaked. I don't know how this came out, but it was leaked that certain bags that they produce, they, I think, buy from the factory. So the factory that they haven't audited make the bags. They sell them to Dior for 53 euros. 53 euros. Dior then sell them to us for thousands of pounds. I think as soon as the lid was lifted on that, that was the point where a lot of us thought, you know, I knew there was markup, but I didn't know it was on that scale. I mean, you guys have told me about fakes costing more than that are really good condition. I just, 53 euros, which is $57, just to me is quite shocking. I always had these bags down, and it doesn't go for all of the bags, okay? Don't assume that all of their bags blanket cost 53. I think it's only the book tote, but I think it's a good average. But I always had these bags down as costing sort of up to about £1,000. I didn't have them down for costing up to 100. I didn't have them down for that at all. And that's why I was so shocked when I found out about it. So as I say, I think in the short term, maybe for people that care, for anyone who's watched the video, etc., then this might have put them off. But I don't think it's going to put off everyone. And this story, I understand it's big in Italy, but it's not so big over here in the UK. So how many people really know about it? You know, probably not many. But it's really upsetting. Like, as I say, it's alleged, and I hope it's not the case. But from what's come out so far and what's been said and that awful video, it feels so upsetting to think of how people are being treated, when for how much these bags and clothes sell for, they could easily afford to pay people a decent wage and to let them go home at the end of the day, allegedly, to let them go home at the end of the day and see their families and go to sleep and have their dinner. You know, I don't see why they can't do that. And I think with luxury, just to finish, I think with luxury, a lot of us assume, maybe wrongly now, but we assume that when you pay luxury prices, you are paying the wages of people who are being fairly treated and fairly paid. I always assumed that. Maybe that was a stupid thing to assume, but I always just thought, oh, you know, that bag is crazy money. Let's say 5k. For 5k, surely the person that made it has got a nice life. You would assume that. And you would assume that fast fashion would be the opposite. That, you know, it's slave labor, it's children being used potentially, etc. But you wouldn't assume that it could be the same for luxury. And that's the thing that shocked me. But anyway, they're my reasons why I was a bit scared talking about this, just because of, you know, like the risk of I spoke out, the risk of upsetting salespeople, which is not what I'm meant to do. Just the risk of all of it, really. I think to put your neck on the line and to talk about something as big as this is, like, not in a big-headed way, but to have the guts to talk about it, you've got to have guts, because LVMH, they do not joke around, you know. So yeah, that's kind of that. But I want to thank all of you for watching, and I'm sorry again for missing yesterday's video. I hope you don't mind. And I'm also sorry because this video is quite long. But thank you again, and I will see you on Sunday.